Hi, folks. I hope all of you are doing very well so far this week. I'd like to spend a few minutes talking to you about critical reading or staying alert and active with the text. When we talk about staying active as a reader, to me that concept boils down to what I like to think of as reading with the twos. So first off, as much as you can, read each of the reading assignments, or in some cases, view the assigned video, whatever the case might be, twice. Now I realize that, especially in a course like this, we all have very limited schedules, so if you don't have time to do that, don't feel bad. Just do the best that you can, and that's all anyone can expect of you. But, if at all possible, I think you'll find that if you can read your reading assignment more than once, you'll get a lot more out of it that second or third time through the process. Another way that we can stay active as readers is to do what I call reading with both hands. Now, what that means is, as you read through a text, or as you view it, be active. Take notes. Especially if it's a printed text, use post-it notes. Underline and highlight it as you read through. Or if you don't feel comfortable doing that, like if it's a textbook, I know that many of you don't like to mark up your textbook because you want to be able to sell it back at the end of the semester, and that's fine. You don't have a notebook by you so that you can jot down ideas and thoughts as you read through the text. If you wait till, the end and then go back to jot down all your ideas, unfortunately I think you're going to miss out on a lot of important details that you might have otherwise been able to note. And finally, read with both eyes. And what that simply means is, as you're reading something or viewing a video that you might need to watch in this course, like this lecture, I know it's not that much fun, I'm aware of that, don't get me wrong, folks, but, keep your attention on it. Keep both eyes on it. Don't have one eye on the text and one eye on the TV. I'll admit that even I am bad about that sometimes, especially during football season. I have a bad habit of trying to read things and watch football at the same time. And after almost 10 years as a teacher, you would think I would know better, but, we all have our bad habits, and that's one of mine. But the more you can stay focused on that text as you read it again, the more you're going to get out of it. Okay, when I talk to you about staying alert as a reader, there are a few different things that entails. So when we stay alert as readers, one thing that we want to do is we want to know the author. So first off, what is that person's background? If you're reading, something about a new medicine or drug or some sort, the article on that new medicine is going to carry a lot more weight if it's been written by a licensed and certified doctor versus just a talk show host or something like that. So what is their background? Is that person, because of their background, actually qualified to write that text? Along with that, along with knowing and understanding their background, is there anything in that person's background or personal history that might make them a little bit biased in the way that they present their argument? For instance, when I was teaching at another area university, it was a course very similar to this, and I used to include an essay about, that was sort of analyzing alcohol advertisements and how uh, the alcohol companies, in the judgment of the author of this text, use some pretty insidious or shady ways to market their products to the public. Now, don't get me wrong, it was a very good essay, very well constructed, but as we as a class kind of dug into that author's background, one of the things that we discovered and talked about quite a bit was the fact that the author of this particular essay was a recovering alcoholic. So obviously, that brought about the question, can someone who's a recovering alcoholic be reasonably objective in the way that they write an essay about how alcohol companies advertise their product to the public? Um, I'm not saying that they can't be, and please, if any of you are recovering addicts of any variety, I'm certainly not trying to demonize that group of people. I have a lot of recovering alcoholics and addicts in my family, so, don't get me wrong, I love you all and such, but, it's worth thinking about, and, on sort of personal notes, since I've been dwelling on that issue, I'll go in and mention that I have very strong religious convictions. So, on my own, when I read an essay by someone who's dead set against religion and, in particular, Christianity, sometimes I have to, if I think they're being unfair in the way they're presenting their case, sometimes for myself, I had to kind of put the text down, separate myself from it for a little bit before I can evaluate it in a fair manner. The other thing that you want to be aware of when you consider the author and their relationship to the text and the audience that they're trying to connect with is how are they trying to use that text to connect with their audience. So in other words, what techniques are they using in the text to bridge that gap to the audience? Now, even though there are a wide variety of different texts when you include essays, movies, books, DVDs, what have you, MP3s, all those sort of things can be understood as text. But in spite of that great variety, there's really only three ways that the composer of a text, to use the broader term, can connect with their audience. One way is ethos. Now, ethos, for our purposes, it's originally a Greek term. All of these terms are, actually. Ethos can be kind of translated to ethics. So when someone uses the appeal of ethos, what they're going to try to convince you is one of two things. One, you should believe what I'm trying to tell you because my ethics are above board. I'm a morally good person. Oppositely, sometimes ethos will take the form of someone saying, don't believe what someone else is telling you on this subject because their ethics and by extension their personal credibility is below board, if you will, and should not be believed. One particular sort of genre where these types of conversations come up quite a bit is in political ads. Thankfully, at the time I'm recording this, we're not in a election season, so we're not being inundated by those at the moment. But, if you remember this, the next time that we're in an election cycle, pay attention to the ads and look for those uses of ethos. Next, logos. Now, logos, like a lot of early Greek terms, can be understood in a variety of different ways. It has a lot of different possible meanings that are built into that one term. However, for our purposes, I think we can understand logos, to be sort of comparable to our idea of logic. So is the author using logic? Are they using reason? Logical formulas, facts and figures, if you will, to try and validate their argument. And third, pathos can actually be connected and is actually understood, even though it doesn't look like it, with the idea of emotion. So is the author of a text trying to invoke certain emotions in the reader, whether it's sadness, joy, sometimes anger, or unfortunately hatred, to get the audience to believe what they're saying? That's pathos. Okay? And then part of this being alert process is knowing the audience. So it is the intended audience for this text a general audience, or a specialized audience. Now, we can figure that out by looking at a couple different things. Is the topic in the text a topic that someone would need specialized knowledge to understand? Like an article in a medical journal or an entire book on a medical topic. Obviously, the audience members of that text, in order to fully understand it, are going to have to come into that reading with some specialized knowledge. Similarly, the wording that's used in the text, do you have to be part of a specific professional group or occupation, if you will, to understand the wording in that text? Or is it like the old Harry Potter movies and books that pretty much anyone can understand and relate to? And then finally, does the audience itself have any reason to be biased in the way that they would respond to a topic? So kind of like what I just told you about myself, sometimes I have trouble, processing articles that are staunchly what I would consider anti-Christian, because I'm decidedly pro-Christian, if you will. And I had to take some time and distance myself from the text, from the essay, before I can adequately process it. Okay? And then finally, know yourself. What is your background and personal experience? How is your personal background and experience sort of shaping or filtering the way that you process an essay or anything that you read? Could that background be giving you either special insights into the text or giving you a reason to be biased toward that text? And finally, to close this out, and then I'll let you go as the rain gets going, Be sure to study pages 3 to 10 in our writing textbook. The sort of quick overview of critical reading that I gave you is just a boiled down presentation of some of the ideas presented there. But you'll certainly want to review that and study that on your own. And last but not least, and as I always tell you, feel free to contact me if you have any questions or need help. Until next time, folks, take care and have a good evening, and feel free to talk amongst yourselves as I back out of this program. Think happy thoughts and pretend that you don't see this boring part of me exiting out. And 1, 2, 3. Good.